Welcome to another edition of Ask Isaiah. I'm Isaiah Rhodes, and I know I've been away with a couple for a couple months in terms of content, in terms of videos. That's just been because I've been swamped with some broadcasting responsibilities I've had to do, covering the Big East, covering the University of Bridgeport, covering Mount Vernon High School basketball, both men's and women's. I've been swamped in terms of my schedule, but I'm coming back around in terms of the NBA playoff push and different things of that nature. But this particular showcase today is a dedication to um, a dear musician, uh, community activist, community organizer, a businessman, entrepreneur, and Nipsey Hussle. He's one of my favorite artists. He recently passed on March 31st, 2019. And I had to take some days to really, come to grips with his passing and the nature that he passed because he he was murdered in front of his in front of the hub of his businesses, the Marathon store, which he has in Crenshaw, South Central Los Angeles. The the murder itself is senseless. It doesn't make any sense considering the nature in which Hustle has conducted himself as a as I mentioned, all of the facets of his dynamic life as an entrepreneur, as a musician, all of the things I just said, but just in terms of how he's given back to his home in Crenshaw in South Central Los Angeles, his ability to reach others, to reach back in his community and give, um, and also the authenticity that he's carried himself with. Obviously, with his untimely passing, it's been an outpouring of love and support for his family, but also just the antidotes that they spew about him in terms of how he's always been a great spirit, somebody that's encouraged and that has never been a hater. He's someone that has had to grind from the bottom to really establish himself in the industry that has historically needed a cosign to really be considered a a staple in the game. But he's been a consistent force based on his grind, and he's been able to create an oasis for himself and his businesses that has been able to generate and build consistently, and he's been able to network throughout the industry and uh and grow without all of the necessary extracurriculars that come with today's social media age. And I think that's a testament to his commitment to his brand and his customer base. Now, me personally, as a fan, I was introduced to Nipsey Hussle around 2009 with his video "Hustle in the House." I love West Coast music. I love the production. Now, the thing about West Coast artists most of the time is compared to the East Coast, they don't really play with words as much as the East Coast, so to say. But they usually a uh, have a feel to them, and you can feel the hustle in their music. Uh, you can feel their testimony in some respects. You can look at Too Short, E40, even Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg is one that has more of a flow. He can do more with words, but in terms of just his delivery and how he's been able to sustain himself with longevity, and how the sound of West Coast music has been able to permeate throughout the years. It just is a testament to how they've been able to create their own sound independent of East Coast music. With that said, the new generation of West Coast artists had to really wait out that particular wave of the older generations, the Snoop Dogs, the Ice Cubes, and things of that nature, to come forward. And you have the likes of YG, J Rock, Kendrick, obviously Kendrick Lamar, one of the biggest artists in the game, if not the biggest. And then you have uh, other other denominations of that, like Problem and The Game is a prior generation before. But with Nipsey Hussle it was a little different because everything that he had wasn't based in the major label. He initially uh, he initially started releasing music around 2005, but he had a little hiatus in between from 2005 to 2008. And around that time, he started to generate some buzz, and he signed an Epic deal that is supposed to be an accomplishment, and it was at the time. Obviously, you get your first record deal, it's supposed to make things take off, but it didn't gain as much traction as Nipsey would have liked, and he was able to negotiate a buyout of that deal and take control of his brand going forward. And when I was introduced to Hustle in the House, that was off of the Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 2. He had already had a mixtape, Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 1, which came out earlier in the year, 2008. Now those two mixtapes were able to establish him as an artist, but he didn't have a major label debut just yet. And then Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 3 was supposed to be a prequel to his initial major label debut. It didn't work out that way, but like I said, he was able to buy himself out and get control of his brand going forward, and he started the Marathon series. Now that is when I feel that the Nipsey Hussle that we've come to know had really established himself. He started to find his voice in a way that he can hang his hat on specific content. Now his messages being based out of South Central Los Angeles, he had a history of gang banging at a young age. He's affiliated with the Rolling 60 Crips. So that history being there, being a backdrop of his life, he didn't dwell on it in a way to glorify it, but more so give anybody from that area, and even hustlers and people who are trying to ascend to greater things, that have that ambition to be greater. The content that he was starting to focus on was more aspirational, more of a motivational type of music that can get you out of any rut you're in, to make you believe in your content, make you believe in your ability to overcome any mainstream politics or anything that might prevent you from being your very best self. Now, obviously, with Hustle's history, it added a bit of authenticity to a particular audience that might want to align themselves with him. But regardless of that, because he didn't never glorified it in a way to make you want to be that, or want to try to follow in those footsteps, it made you it resonated with you because you saw him as a leader. And in a lot of his lyrics, he references some of his struggles in trying to establish himself as an artist and as a businessman, and not giving up. You get what I'm saying? He would say things like, on Rags to Riches, this is off of TMC, the second installment of the Marathon. He would say things like, Pac showed us that the pain we felt was not exclusive, was in the hood, but Sean Carter showed us no excuses. Now kids tell me I'm the reason that they finished school, and if it wasn't for the Marathon, they wouldn't have made it through. You get what I'm saying? Like things like that. He understood his platform and where he was taking his music and what he meant to his audience. And I think once he tapped into that, it was all systems go. The Marathon series established him as a prolific artist, a consistent artist, and based off his hustle, based off of his grind, something that he established. That's something that he had established already with his family. Black Sam, his brother, had already had a store in Slauson, but due to some circumstances, it was raided, and the shop had to shut down. But when Black Sam had got out of prison, they were able to reestablish themselves in Slauson and get a new store. And that particular hub was a base where they could sell their music. They were able to sell merch and really create uh, a business outside of the music that was that was that was baked that had a foundation through the music, and the consistency and persistence that we saw from Nipsey Hussle was able to transcend any particular situation that many artists might not be able to overcome. Now, being an independent artist is very difficult, and when you don't have the financial backing of a major label, you have to create multiple streams. I mentioned the different businesses, the different streams that he was able to create once he created the Marathon store. But in generating the income and in creating more content musically, he was able to generate enough funds to open up a barbershop, uh, open up multiple restaurants. He was able to refurbish skating rinks and different things like that. These are the things that he did within his community. And not only did he do that, that provided opportunities for people in his community, and that made him somewhat of a people's champ. Now, his particular company, All Money In, that particular brand in itself is letting everybody know that he's trying to keep the money not only within his company but within the community. In opening up these businesses, it's showing his community that not only am I investing in the community, but I want to prevent gentrification in this community. I want to make sure that everything that we do is encouraging our youth in the inner city, and showing that it doesn't just have to be music. It can be anything. All you need is an opportunity and to be consistent. And in doing so, he made himself he turned himself into somewhat of a big deal, even without having, like I said, the major label stamp. Now, this is all within the process of the Marathon series. Now, as an artist, and he's growing, he's getting more features. He's getting much better production as time is going on. He understands his platform, and his voice is becoming a lot more prevalent, especially in this internet era where you needed to have a social media presence. You needed to be able to tap into your fans a lot easier than in years prior. Now, being that he was able to establish himself with the Marathon series, you would expect some momentum going forward into his next album, which could potentially be his debut, which is Victory Lap. Now, Victory Lap came years later, but initially after the Marathon series had ended, the 3 installments, he was able to get some looks from different labels. You got Rick Ross imprint of Maybach Music Group. You had Atlantic. You had different opportunities being thrown his way. But Nipsey remained solid, not only just wanted to remain independent, but more so from a creative standpoint. He wanted to maintain creative control, and that is something that he preached within his music consistently, being a boss, making sure you maintain your standards, never selling your soul just for a small change, because once you do that, you lose all integrity. Now, obviously, you want to have better financial backing, but in doing so, you want to maintain certain principles that you establish for yourself in the brand. Now, when you create something like the Marathon series, you understand that it's never going to be quick or easy. It's going to take time. But when you put the work in, it'll be fruitful in the end. Now, obviously, nothing is ever linear. It's always going to be ups and downs. And due to the experiences that Nipsey Hussle had in his past, whether it be through gangbanging, whether it be having his family store raided and having to go through rebuilding a business, and once again having to sell mixtapes out of the parking lot, and having to travel on a bus to get to a studio to get recordings, and not being able to mix it but still being able to put the music out. These are things that Hussle had to go through before he can even establish himself. So now when he's in this marathon that he's establishing, he can reflect back to all of those experiences and put it in the music. And me as a fan and people all over the country now now are are relating to that. Me personally, I had just got out of college. I'm struggling with finding employment. I'm not necessarily making any tractions professionally in terms of broadcasting. I'm going through it, and I don't know why I'm not getting the looks that I expect of myself. I know I could do it. I know I can call games. I know I can analyze sports better than anybody. But it's not happening the way I think or the way I see fit for myself, right? But what am I doing? I'm listening to the marathon. I'm writing down my goals for myself, and listening to that music put me in a position to say, even if it takes forever, the fact that I'm committing myself to it, regardless of what obstacles may come my way, I will get through this. This is me writing all of this down, listening to Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle was a soundtrack of some of the most difficult times of my life in terms of just trying to find my way. And to be able to see his progression mark some of my progression as well. And as I was able to break my foot in the door in different avenues and create relationships and make ways for myself, I saw Nipsey doing the same thing. Now, being that he had established himself with the Marathon series, he was able to make connects with different DJs, not only on the West Coast, but all over down south, in the Midwest, and different things of that nature. And now he's able to create more. And his next project, which was Crenshaw, saw a big turning point for Hustle in terms of him testing his market, him testing his fan base. Now, a lot has been made about how Crenshaw was marketed. Now, Crenshaw, to me, was a flawless body of work. And I think, let me go back a little bit. If you go back to the Marathon series and how he was able to create that music, a lot of that music was original content. I felt like even though it wasn't an album, he was trying to craft it as if it was an album. So every project going forward would be considered album worthy in a sense. Now, Crenshaw, like I said, it was a Gangsta Grills mixtape, and DJ Drama had a big following. DJ Drama has a big following. DJ Drama is one of the premier and preeminent DJs down south, based out of Philadelphia and Atlanta. DJ Drama has had a exceptional Gangsta Grills mixtape series throughout his career, so aligning himself with Nipsey Hussle only made sense, especially with Nipsey trying to ascend to a much higher standard in hip hop. Now, with Crenshaw, the way it was marketed, and I think it was genius in a sense, Nipsey Hussle allowed for Crenshaw to be blasted on Dat Piff, live mixtapes, and all of the mixtape platforms all over. You can get on the internet for free. But he also had a proud to pay platform that put the mixtape on sale for $100. Now, when you think about a mixtape, you'd be like, wow, $100? How can a mixtape be worth $100? But because of the work Nipsey Hussle had already established and already put in, whether it be with the Bullets Ain't Got No Name series, which was 3 mixtapes, or the Marathon series, which was 3 mixtapes, well, 2 mixtapes and a somewhat of an EP to a degree. You have the foundation of a fan base that will be willing to support you at the highest extent. Now, years later, when Hussle explained the way he came up with the concept, he initially got the idea from the $100 Philly cheesesteak. That particular story came from Contagious, a book from Jonah Berger. He saw it and he figured he'd apply it to his mixtapes as well. But he thought about his particular fan base in the way companies market video games. Now, with video games, whether it be Call of Duty or whatever, you would have uh, games that would be $60. Then you have different versions of the same games that will cost more money, right? But the majority of the fan base will buy the $60 game. But the way Nipsey explained it is, you will have a certain part of the fan base that would be so connected to what you're doing, the movement, the things that you're saying, that they will be willing to pay the highest extent just to show their level of support. Now, in marketing the mixtape the way that he did, Hustle generated a lot of traction throughout the media and the internet. People wanted to know what was going on. So to see that he was willing to put himself out there like that, it drew a lot of looks. And one of the key looks that propelled the mixtape to the next level, as I said, it was already a classic. And he allowed for the mixtape to be streamed free. So you didn't necessarily have to do so. But when Jay-Z saw the marketing behind the mixtape and how it would generate so much traffic, he respected the hustle. Now, Jay-Z Sean Carter is a hustler and all that he is, whether it be being one of the greatest MCs ever, or marketing clothes, being a part owner of the Brooklyn Nets, establishing Rock Nation Sports. He is somebody who's always going to be connected to making money and understanding how to market product. He understood what Nipsey Hussle was doing, and on the strength of how he did it, he bought 100 copies. You understand what I'm saying? Things like that showed the imprint that Nipsey Hussle was making. Now, to see Jay-Z do that, to see Jay-Z buy 100 copies, that showed Nipsey that he could take this to the next level, which he was already in the process of doing. He was already doing so. But that opened up his audience to a much larger scale because Jay-Z makes people pay attention, right? Now, with Crenshaw, you saw a different level of production. He took his sound to Houston for a while and really wanted to tap into that particular region. And in doing so, he kept his content and his messaging the same, but you saw him play with different sounds in a way that showed his diversity as an artist. And the features that he has on it, you have The Weather with Rick Ross. You have songs with Zero and Slim Thug. You get what I'm saying? Things like that show you that his reach is far more expansive than he would usually get credit for, than just being a mixtape artist. But being the times that we're in, and with the internet's importance in this, not just in music, but in overall just everything, you have an opportunity to create a standard and brand for yourself without mainstream backing. And Nipsey, being the consummate, consistent, prolific creator that he is, he's gonna find a way to find cracks and nuances that will be able to push his brand to the next level. Now, in being that the initial physical copies of Crenshaw was selling out so quick, they did pop-up shops all over the country when they went on tour, and they were selling out physical copies just because of how high quality the project was, and that was expanding his fan base even more. And I think Crenshaw was a huge turning point for Nipsey Hussle. Now, I mentioned the marathon and how I felt that was really taking his voice to the next level in his brand and just his messaging. But with Crenshaw, it was more so about the music and the production and him understanding how important he is as an artist. And when he goes to that next level in terms of creating an album, that will be at the core of, at the soundtrack of it now, because now he has the stamp of how he's gonna of what he's talking about. Now you need the backdrop. And I think every project after, you saw vast improvements in his production. Now I could speak to you for days about his music. I could speak to you for days about how his lyrics left a deep impact on me. I mentioned, some of the struggles I had to overcome while listening to his music. It motivated me, but more so than anything, just from watching him from afar and just, studying the game and just paying attention to how he moved, I was always taken aback as to how articulate, how well thought out he was. Being that he passed away uh, March 31st, 2019, he was only 33 years old. He's turned 34 in August. But to see how well spoken he is, how thought out he is, and he understands different uh, different areas. It's not just about the street with him. He's more so suited to, you know, tapping into business and different areas of business and how his community, not just in Los Angeles, but in all inner cities, he's connected to everywhere. How all inner cities have the opportunity to grow despite what people might look at from the outside. Now, one of the key one of the key how can I say this? One of the key businesses that he helped establish is Vector 90. Now, Vector 90 has two different levels to it. Vector 90 is a hub in South Central Los Angeles as well that has a top floor, which is a co-working space where different entrepreneurs and business owners who are starting business can work together and have a particular synergy in that particular co-working space that can generate and create different opportunities and businesses for different people. And then you have uh, the lower level, which is too big to fail. And too big to fail is focusing on the youth and different STEM areas, science, math, and engineering that can help towards the future. Now, when you think about STEM, you think about Silicon Valley and how all of those particular areas of affluence have access to different opportunities, whereas in the inner city it's not as much. It's not to say that in the inner city they don't necessarily have the intellect or the creativity to do some things, if not better, but it's just the access. And I think with Vector 90 and what Nipsey Hussle was doing, especially, uh, it was open the day before his album release, which was Victory Lap, to see how that was able to make a vast imprint, a vast impact on his area, just goes to show you the level of commitment that he had to his community. And I think for me, as a young black man trying to make my way in this world, to see the level of influence and commitment that he has to his community, it only uh, makes me want to have more pride in what I do. Even though I'm not a musician, I can use my platform as a sports analyst, as a broadcaster, to create opportunities when I see fit, and when I have the wherewithal and the platform to create for others. So that just seeing the different areas that he was able to tap into at such a young age, to see the growth that he showcased within, let's say, a 10-year period. We go back to Bullets Ain't Got No Name Volume 2 when I first got introduced to Nipsey Hussle, and to where he is in 2019. When Victory Lap was released in 2018, All-Star Week in 2018, the critical acclaim that it released, that the critical acclaim that it received upon its release, just goes to show you the level of respect that he got around the industry, the level of respect that he got from fans all over the country. And to see him get nominated for a Grammy in 2019, that's the pinnacle. He didn't even have to win it, because him being nominated for a Grammy, rapping about what he rapped about and staying consistent with what he rapped about. He didn't chase the biggest hits. He didn't chase the prototypical feature to get looks. He kept his foot to the grindstone. He stayed on the internet. He stayed giving the fans premium content. And from a business perspective, he stayed on the front lines. He contributed to his community. He was an advocate against gun violence, especially knowing his history with being affiliated with the Rolling 60s. And he was adamant about progression, adamant about putting people in position to be the best. And the way I know that, even though I didn't know him personally, is you can feel that from the way people talk about him. You can feel that from just his ability to speak and break down what he had going for himself and what he had going forward for the people around him. For him to be from Slauson Ave in South Central Los Angeles, for him to have gone through for him to have gone through what he went through as a youth, experiencing different things, and having the conscience to say, okay, this is not for me. I'm gonna commit to music and making my way out. And when I do so, I'm gonna come back and show my community that you can do it, that you will do it, and I will be here for you to do that to the level that he did. I just feel that it's a cruel irony that he had to be killed in the parking lot that he hustled to make ends meet, that he created a hub not only for himself but others in the parking lot, that same parking lot, the parking lot that was raided, the store that was raided years earlier. He was able to come back, him and his brother, and buy another store and create more. You get what I'm saying? In that same parking lot, to lose his life in the fashion that he did as a people's champ. People love Nipsey Hussle. And if you go all over social media, you can see the outpouring of love from different walks of life, just to show you that he was much bigger than just South Central Los Angeles. I'm here in Mount Vernon, New York, and I'm telling you, I'm a diehard Nipsey Hussle fan. Diehard. You get what I'm saying? My deepest sympathies and condolences go out to his longtime girlfriend, Lauren Linden, his children. He has a son with Lauren Linden. He has a daughter from a previous relationship. His brothers, his mother, his sisters, his sister, his father, his grandparents. Though the grief that we all are going through, this is just from afar. None of it can compare to his loved ones and the fashion that he lost his life. Eric Holder has been charged with the murder. There's been so many different conspiracies that have gone into this particular incident, and I don't really want to dwell on it too much, because I feel like it's a disrespect to. Personally, I feel dwelling on a particular project that Nipsey Hussle had in the works. He was going to profile a Honduran doctor, Dr. Sebi. Now, he's a controversial figure in respects. It appears that he had cured AIDS, and he had fought that particular. Now, obviously, he was challenged when he said he cured AIDS, so he had to go he had to go to the Supreme Court, and apparently, according to Nipsey Hussle, he won in showing that he had proved that he had healed multiple people of the AIDS virus. Now, there's different conspiracy theories going on in terms of, people saying the government wanted to shut Nipsey Hussle down and all these different things. I feel that is totally disrespectful to all of the things that Nipsey Hussle has done outside of music. He's much bigger than the Dr. Sebi documentary. Now, I'm not discounting anything. I don't want to come up here and make it seem like I know everything about Dr. Sebi, because I don't. But what I do know is that there's so many different documentaries on Dr. Sebi on YouTube. There's so many things that you can look on the internet for without Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle, the man, was so much bigger than Dr. Sebi. No disrespect to Dr. Sebi. He lived a long life. He lived into his 80s. Much respect to his family. But I feel like Nipsey Hussle, as a businessman, as an artist, as a man of redemption, as an example, as a beacon of light, this is somebody that deserves much more than just conspiracy theories about why he passed or how he passed. The hows and the whys don't matter. This is a man that his life was taken away at the age of 33 when he had so much more to give. He had so much more to create. And for him to live the full life that he did, to experience the ups and downs that he did, and to come out of it unscathed, to come out of it with wisdom, to come out of it as an encouraging figure to not only his community but so much more. I think that's a testament to who he was. That's a testament to his belief in himself, and it shows everyone that when you believe in yourself and you commit to yourself, you commit to a mission, you can take it way beyond what you think or way beyond what you can conceive as long as you believe. Now, to Nipsey's credit, he had a solid team with him. And I'm sure everyone around him, from his brother, Black Sam, Karen Civil, everyone he worked with, 1500 and nothing, production-wise, YG, DJ Mustard, everyone who has been able to touch Nipsey Hussle, I'm sure that the entire industry who showed him numerous amounts of love and the outpouring of his fans will support anything that will sustain his legacy, because everything in his music, whether it be listening to the Marathon, whether it be Crenshaw, whether it be Mailbox Money, whether it be No Pressure, whether it be Slauson Boy 2, whether it will be Victory Lap, everything that he ever released musically gave you the impression that he was about empowering, that gave you the impression that he was about empowerment, gave you the impression that he was about his people, and he was about making sure that before this life is done, you leave a legacy here that is worth talking about. It's not about materialistic things. It's not about being famous. It's more so about what you give. And from Nipsey Hussle, he gave his everything. He gave his everything. And you know, we can't question God. We can't question, you know, why it had to be so tragic. But one thing I do know from personal experience is that God works through tragedy and circumstance. And sometimes you won't understand. It's not your job to understand. But what will come of this will be much greater than we can imagine. It's just unfortunate that Nipsey Hussle had to be the sacrifice for it. But I think with everything that he gave us, I think that he left so many clues. He left so many blueprints for us to find a way to maximize our potential, and we don't have to sacrifice integrity to get it. We don't have to sacrifice integrity to get it. Nipsey Hussle is one of the greatest artists, one of the greatest hip-hop artists that I've ever witnessed. And I'm telling you, from seeing what hip-hop has become from a global perspective, it is our greatest natural resource. We've been able to enjoy great music. We've been able to witness great success stories from hip-hop. And Nipsey Hussle is one of those greatest successes. Unfortunately, his life had to be cut short the way that it did, but regardless of how it did, this is an individual that has left an impact that can never be forgotten. And I just want to give him his credit. I want to give him his just due. And as a fan, Isaiah Rose from Mount Vernon, New York, I thank you. Thank you, Nipsey Hussle. Once again, my deepest condolences to his family, his fans out there. We're going to get through it together. Just remember, TMC, the marathon continues. All money in, no money out. Over and out.